Hi everyone, this is Morgan. In this video, I'm going to very quickly talk about the 6 books that I read in the month of May, and then I'm going to talk about what my, not 2 cents, but I'm going to talk about what I'm going to be doing to help the Black Lives Matter movement and the protests that are going on now in support of justice for George Floyd and Ahmaud Arbery and Breonna Taylor and every other Black American who's been wrongfully murdered by the police forces in America. So the 6 books I read last month were Catching Fire by Suzanne, which I gave 5 stars. Eat and Love Yourself by Sweeney, which was a graphic novel, which I think I gave 3 stars, yes. Bras and Broomsticks by Mlynowski, which I gave 4 stars. My Dark Vanessa by Kate Elizabeth Russell, which I gave 4 stars. The Hunting Party by Lucy Foley, which I gave 3 stars, and Bunny by Mona Awad, which I gave 4.5 stars. Catching Fire, you already know what it's about. It's my favorite book in the trilogy. Eat and Love Yourself. I actually am not going to talk about these because I talked about them in a previous reading vlog, so I'm just going to skip to the ones that I read recently, which were My Dark Vanessa. I think this is a really important book, talking about the nuances of abuse and trauma and survival. And if you don't know what this book is about, it follows Vanessa as a 15-year-old becoming involved in a sexual relationship with her English teacher in high school, and then her 17 years later in her 30s with other girls coming out with allegations against this teacher, kind of realizing that what she experienced as a teenager was in fact abuse and not a romantic relationship and love story like she expected. There was quite a bit of controversy around this book. I believe it, from reading it, I see that this book shows a nuanced picture, but I think there were a lot of people who read the first half of the book and were like, this is very clearly romanticizing an abusive pedophilic relationship. Reading the entire book, you get the context of her kind of dealing with that trauma as an adult, because the book does switch back and forth between her ages, but the first half of the book is predominantly her as a teenager, and it very explicitly follows her through the steps of being groomed and starting to experience the trauma of her relationship. So that was a really hard book to read. It was really hard to listen to over audiobook. Not that the audiobook was bad, it was just, a difficult experience, but I do feel like that it was an incredibly well done, well written book, and talked a lot about important things when it comes to trauma and survivorship. Then I read The Hunting Party by Lucy Foley, which is a thriller about a group of old friends who go on a winter vacation together to a very, very remote hunting lodge, and one of them dies. And then this book is most of the time it's spent establishing the relationships between these people. I gave it 3 stars. I didn't think it was particularly entertaining. I guessed a couple of it was entertaining. I thought it was very standard. I guessed a lot of the twists as they were coming. I was surprised by the very last twist, which I think was very well executed, because once it was revealed, I really saw those pieces fall into place, but it wasn't anything very shocking to me. I'm definitely still interested in reading Lucy Foley's upcoming books, or she just released the guest list. I'm very much still interested in reading that. And then the last book I read was Bunny by Mona Awad. This was a book about a girl named Samantha who's in a master's program for creative writing at like a fictional, almost parody of like a very yuppie, waspy liberal arts school in the Northeast. And she is in this program with a bunch of girls who call each other Bunny and are almost like this friendship cult. And she kind of becomes immersed in what they're doing and kind of the magic that they're performing. And it's just a very weird book. I really loved it. I gave it 4.5 stars. I thought the pacing was a little bit off in the middle, which is really the only reason that I didn't give it 5 stars. But I really loved it a lot, and I loved the writing. It could be seen as gimmicky, but I really, really loved the writing. And so now I'm going to talk a little bit about what's going on in the world. Over the past couple weeks, there has been public outcries, specifically this time prompted by the murder of George Floyd in Minneapolis, Minnesota, when a police officer knelt on his neck for almost 9 minutes. I've been fairly active in support of Black Lives Matter since I was in college. I did have to take a step back with my public support because of my job as a journalist for a newspaper. When you are a journalist, as much as you support something, sometimes it is more prudent to keep those beliefs private, because if you publicize them, it can be used against you to undermine your reporting at a later date, which does not mean that I was not supporting this movement before. I've been donating to bail bonds and mental health facilities and services for Black Americans, and I've been doing as much as I can from behind the scenes, but as of the past couple of days, I am no longer with that job, and I'm very publicly supporting the Black Lives Matter movement. The police departments across America have really been just an arm of violence against Americans, Black Americans, for hundreds of years. I find it despicable. I struggle to understand how police officers with no training in social services or community dynamics or any investment in the communities are able to be the ones upholding laws which are also not always moral. The law is not the end-all be-all of what is right or wrong. Oftentimes the law is on the wrong side of history, and it has to be changed to match, and that is definitely what is happening here. I am putting all of my reading on hold, all of my reading plans. I mean, I haven't really been inspired to read that much lately. I've only read 6 books in May, and part of that was just heartache over what was happening in the world. And so I am putting all of that on hold, and I'm basically going to be committing as long as it takes, I feel, to read. I will be basically exclusively reading Black authors, Black nonfiction, white fragility. Let me find on Twitter the list of books that I have been specifically. So you want to talk about race by Ijeoma Oluo. Why I'm No Longer Talking to White People About Race by Rennie Edo-Lodge. Women, Race, and Class by Angela Davis. The New Jim Crow by Michelle Alexander. White Fragility, which I don't forget who, by Robin DiAngelo. All of these books are ones that I'm going to be prioritizing. One that I have in my house that I don't have with me but I'm going to grab is This Will Be My Undoing by Morgan Jerkins, which is a collection of essays by a Black American journalist that I really admire and I follow on Twitter and have been following for a couple of years. She has another book coming out very soon called Wandering in Strange Lands, I believe, which is basically her amateur historian efforts to trace back her family roots and what it is like to try and find your family history when your family history is very much entrenched in slavery and that the American Black experience in the South. Slightly later, me coming to add that nonfiction is not my genre of choice, and I know that's true of a lot of people, but right now that doesn't matter, and it's important that we're reading the real lived experiences of real people and what their experiences have informed them in regards to race politics and structures of racism in the world. So yes, read, support Black authors. I will be doing so, but I will also be putting aside my preference for fiction and fantasy and trying to focus on nonfiction with actionable things that I can do to help actively change what our world is like right now, and I hope other people will as well. I am 100% on the side of the protests that are going on, and I hope that everyone is doing everything that they can to support the right of Black Americans to life and freedom and a life without fear from the government and from agents of law enforcement. So I am going to be linking some resources down below for those looking to educate themselves about the structures of white supremacy in America, and just I hope that people donate, and I hope that if you're able, please go out there and support the protests. Make sure you are social distancing and self-isolating afterwards in an effort to minimize the spread of COVID-19. I know that it is, you know, hard to put protesting on pause after, you know, going out because you want to just keep the momentum, but it's really important that, you know, people take care of themselves and take care of their health as well. So I will be going to protests, I will be donating, and I will be continuously talking to family members about what's going on and why it's important to support the movement. So I wish you all the best. I have a few book video ideas, but it really I just don't feel right uploading regular content while so much of my heart and energy is on fighting the police brutality in America, basically. So yes, I hope you're all doing well. Please let me know in the comments what you're going to be reading to educate yourself on the structures of inequality and fear that have been perpetuated in America. So I hope to hear from you. Sorry for this video. I don't care if it was preachy, because if you feel like this video was preachy, then you're probably someone who needed to hear it. And I will see you guys next time, sometime. Yes, all right, bye.